Let's talk a little bit about the pandemic. Let's talk about COVID, and let's talk about the president's diagnosis and his treatment with the Pfizer drug Paxlovid. Interestingly enough, the president, you may know, tested positive for COVID, said he was doing better, and then tested positive again. This is known as a rebound case. And let's take a look at the president telling us now for the second time that he's better.
I've just tested negative for COVID-19 after isolating for 5 days. Thankfully, I'll
Really?
now be able to return to work in person.
I apologize. This was the first time. It's a Groundhog COVID Day. This was the first time the president tested negative and then went on to test positive just a few days later. So what is up with rebound COVID, and what is something, here's a little pop quiz, what is something that President Biden and Dr. Fauci have in common with their COVID diagnosis? Two things. One, they took the Pfizer drug, Paxlovid, and they had rebound COVID. So this begs the question, why does the White House continue to push Pfizer's Paxlovid when we have this data starting to emerge?
Congresswoman Representative Mary Miller asked that same question. She tweeted this today. She said, Biden received 4 shots of the vax, 2 doses, 2 boosters, and still became so sick he needed 30 pills of emergency use Paxlovid and now has something called rebound. Why are we firing healthy soldiers over this vaccine? That's a good question, right? Like, why are we being told that you need this because it'll protect you from getting sick, and when you're loaded up on this stuff, you get sick? Like, good questions, right? For people who've lost their jobs over
Valid
this.
questions, sure.
Right.
Absolutely valid.
Now, you remember here's a flashback, because I want to unpack this Paxlovid stuff here and why the White House is continuing to funnel billions of dollars to Pfizer. Do you remember, though, in 2021 when Pfizer told us this? This was the report back then, that 1 dose of Pfizer vaccine may protect COVID-19 victims from reinfection, according to this new study. And so Pfizer then, you'll remember Pfizer CEO, they were all on TV talking about this, and they were all over CNBC and Bloomberg. They were all, one of these, all you need.
The head of the
did that
CDC
fall away? Yeah.
The head of the CDC even came out and said it.
Yes. To be fair, though, this was before all the variants started flying about, and they were able to, sort of say, well, these variants, the vaccine was not developed for them. So
was it, though? This was, look at this article. This is August 6th. This is August 6th, 2021. This is less than a year ago.
We started to know about Delta, and excuse me if I'm wrong, but my memory of writing the newsletter is that Delta really came to the forefront in mid-August.
Okay. Let us know in the chat, in the comments. Let's fact check this in real time. Like, when did we first start hearing about Delta? Because I feel like we even started hearing about Delta in 2020. We started as we went towards the Christmas time of 2020. We started hearing about. I'm sorry. Yeah, of like the spring of 2020 into the summer.
Yeah, it says it was first identified in India in late 2020.
Okay.
Yeah, I feel like we already knew about these variants, and I feel like we were hearing from these CEOs, no, these vaccines they're going to protect you against these variants too. That's why 1 dose, you should be good to go, no worries here. Maybe now a 2nd dose. Maybe a booster. Then once you get to another booster, and
yes.
now Paxlovid, and now you got to go on this. And then you get a rebound case. So here is President Biden tweeting this about it, right? Paxlovid, this is after his first diagnosis, right? This is the day after that little press conference we just saw there, before his 2nd rebound. He said, Paxlovid is a game changer in our fight against BA5. Doc prescribed it to me when I was COVID positive. The drug reduces risk of hospitalization and death by about 90%, and you can access these pills for free at tens of thousands of local drugstores around the country. Free? Oh, free. Interesting, right? But of course, we've given them billions of dollars, right? You, the taxpayer, have foot the bill and paid Pfizer billions of dollars. The Biden
and we even paid for the research. We've paid for the research and development. We paid for the launch. We've paid for basically all of it. And so they don't take into, like, they don't have to pay us back for the research. They just get to keep that money, and they get all these billions of profit that they're making over the top of it. And I also want to recommend that people look into what Peter McAuliffe and Robert Malone have said about Paxlovid, or that drug, because just look that up and listen to what they've said about it.
Yeah. In fact, follow Dr. Malone or follow Dr. McCullough on Twitter and see what he has to say about it. But here's the American Conservative, which, Pfizer gets big bucks from this. Biden pays big bucks for Pfizer's latest flop. The Biden administration is paying $10.6 billion in taxpayer money for Pfizer's unoriginal and ineffective COVID-19 drug from Paxlovid. So let's go through this piece. The Federalist wrote a really interesting piece today where they kind of dissected this. So let's go through some of the sticking points in this, shall we?
Well, specifically, though, it's around the rate of rebound, which originally we were told is rare, less than 1%, right? These are rebound cases with Paxlovid as a treatment, right? So originally we were told, no, it's about 1%. Then we were told it's 5.4%. And then 10%. And then just last week on CNN, medical analyst and professor at George Washington University said that the newest strain of COVID has a 20 to 40% or even higher risk of rebound when coupled with this drug, right? And so, okay, those are important. Those are important data points. That means that the efficacy of this treatment is lower to the tune of maybe even 60%, right? And of course, you would think, well, Paxlovid is usually only given to people who are high risk or elderly, which the president is, right? So it doesn't take a genius to know that 2 cases of COVID is bad for someone who's at risk, especially someone whose immune system is compromised because they have just fought off a virus. And then now they have to take it again, right? So we need answers to these questions.
And so the Federalist asked this question, if you want to take my laptop here, Philip. If Paxlovid causes more COVID, why has the White House spent billions on it? That's a good question, right? So if we go through and we look at why have they continued to spend billions on it, and asking specifically, why make high-risk patients sick twice, as Natalie was just saying. Rebound COVID post-Paxlovid raises a critical public health and drug safety concern. According to the National Institutes of Health, only high-risk populations are supposed to get Paxlovid. But taking Paxlovid sometimes opened up those same high-risk patients to rebound infection. So again... people with actual data simulations need to run the calculation of, is it more dangerous to give these people this treatment with a risk of a rebound than letting them fight it off naturally, knowing that the current variant normally shows mild symptoms, right? These are important questions to run simulations on. Right.
Well, then also you need to look at the drug that we cannot say on this channel. John Campbell, who is another YouTuber that you should follow on this, compared Paxlovid with that drug and found that other drug to be far superior to this, but yet, because, well, I don't even want to get into that, but
he actually compares the molecular composition. He draws the molecular structure and he shows you that it is almost identical, Paxlovid, to the drug that we call people crazy for mentioning because it also is used in farming. And so, okay. I think it's interesting to also look at some of the other drugs on the market and how they are, in fact, being pulled off for their efficacy. If we can pull up this screen about Regeneron, I'm sorry to skip ahead. But just today, the antibody treatment that President Trump took when he was diagnosed with COVID, called Regeneron, was taken off the market, and they stopped their 4 clinical trials because the data suggests that its efficacy had waned in the face of the surging Omicron variant. So if you take a look at this, according to this report, the company terminated the trials, which ranged from early to late stage because of emerging SARS-CoV-2 variants impacting susceptibility to study the drug. Recent updates on clinical trials.gov.state. So who does that leave now, right? So with Regeneron, which again, at one point we thought, oh, maybe this is our key to treating patients with COVID. It seemed to work fine for President Trump. What's happening here? So who's left? Well, in terms of COVID therapeutics still on the market, it's Pfizer with Paxlovid. And that's about it. There is still a Merck pill called Lagevrio.
Yeah, if you go to the CDC's website, you can see the two that are like generally mentioned for this as a prescription. But for the vaccine, go ahead, David.
Well, yeah, I was just going to say that, and the reason that is, and this is pretty common knowledge by now, but if there is another drug that can take care of COVID, like it can get rid of it, they can't have that on the market to get emergency authorization to use. So the reason there cannot be another drug that they say, oh yeah, this could help or this could help, is because all of these drugs have been released with emergency authorization, meaning they didn't have to be fully approved to be in the market. So none of these drugs are fully approved. They've just got emergency authorization. And so these others fall off because of that, because they cannot have that with another drug that does anything positive.
And that perhaps is the biggest part of this story. I mean, the money piece that we're funneling to them is one thing, but this emergency use authorization stuff where we're skipping trials. And in fact, I'll put this up on the screen here on the Federalist.com if you want to take my screen here. The White House foolishly chose to pay Pfizer $10 billion for Paxlovid based on a highly preliminary pilot study showing nearly 90% effectiveness, which later dissolved into its study and failing and being voluntarily discontinued by Pfizer prior to its completion. Paxlovid failed its trial endpoints when compared to the placebo group. So if you took the placebo, you did better.
Yes.
Perhaps the Biden White House didn't realize that the informal preliminary pilot studies are never conclusive and results need confirmation with a formal clinical trial. Regardless, the White House did not wait until the formal trial was complete before handing out $10 billion of taxpayer money to run right down the drain at Pfizer.